Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging right into something, well, pretty critical for global shipping ammonia as a future fuel. Okay, let's unpack this. We're aiming to sift through the information, especially from a key DNV report, to really get at the core of ammonia's potential, its challenges too, and the breakthroughs we've seen. And it's urgent. The IMO's net zero framework, just approved in April 2025, demands serious GHG emission cuts 21% by 2030. That's not far off at all.
What's fascinating here is just how fast things have moved. 5 years back, 2020, talking about ammonia fuel felt mostly theoretical. Lots of barriers seemed, well, almost insurmountable. But the progress between then and now, 2025, it's been genuinely transformative. Ammonia's gone from a maybe someday idea to a real contender. Many of those hurdles have been tackled surprisingly quickly, actually.
A real shift. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Why ammonia? What's the appeal? DMV points out some big advantages. First up, zero carbon emissions. Burn it in an engine or fuel cell, no CO2. That's a massive plus for decarbonization, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's the headline benefit. But it goes beyond that, practically speaking, for a ship. Compared to hydrogen, for instance, ammonia's liquid volumetric density is about 50% higher. So you need less tank space for the same energy. Plus, it's less flammable, easier to liquefy lower pressures, higher temperatures. Makes handling it on board much more feasible.
Right, and space is always at a premium on ships. The sources also mention cost-producing ammonia, potentially cheaper and more energy efficient than things like e-methanol or e-methane.
That's another key point. And scalability, that's perhaps its biggest strength. You can make ammonia carbon-free. So green ammonia uses renewable electricity, water, air. Blue ammonia uses fossil fuels but captures the carbon. Critically, no need for scarce carbon feedstocks. And there's already a huge global production base, about 200 million tons a year, mostly for fertilizer. Plus, 126 ports have ammonia terminals. That's existing infrastructure you can leverage.
So we're not starting from absolute zero. That's a huge advantage, and the shipping industry already deals with it.
Yeah, they move about 18 to 20 million tons a year as cargo. It's used as a refrigerant, too. So there's some existing familiarity, which certainly helps lower the learning curve a bit.
Okay, that all sounds very promising. Makes a strong case.
It does. But, and this is the big but, compared to conventional fuels like MGO, ammonia still has downsides. It's generally pricier, less available as fuel, the tech is less mature, it's less efficient per volume, needs more space. But the really dominant challenge, the one that affects almost everything else, is its toxicity.
Toxicity, right. That sounds serious, especially at sea. What does that really mean for ships and crews?
It's a fundamental safety issue. Even low levels can irritate eyes, lungs, skin. Higher concentrations or direct contact, immediately dangerous. It's hygroscopic, meaning it pulls moisture from, well, wherever it can. Mucous membranes, skin, liquefied ammonia, causes frostbite and nasty caustic burns. So you need safety measures way beyond the standard IGF code for gas fuels. Things like preventing any operational leaks, having designated safe areas on board, clear evacuation routes, special protective gear, really careful analysis for bunkering. It shapes everything: design, training, port procedures.
That's a stark reality check. So with that major challenge, how did the industry make such strides in just 5 years? This takes us to that DNV barrier dashboard you mentioned. It tracks fuels against standard marine fuel oil. And comparing 2020 to 2025 shows a lot of movement. They even added 3 new ecosystem barriers in 25. The main takeaway seems to be big progress on most fronts.
Exactly. The change is really noticeable. Let's look at the ship-related barriers first, basically. Can we actually build these ammonia-fueled ships?
Take safety regulations. In 2020, that was a high barrier. No specific IMO rules, complex alternative design approvals needed.
Fast forward to 2025, and it's much more mature. DNV published its first classification rules back in 2021, updated them every year. The IMO got non-mandatory interim guidelines out in 2024, a big step. Even the IGC code for gas carriers was tweaked in late 2024, allowing them to use ammonia cargo as fuel, which is encouraged. Now, we still need full prescriptive rules in the IGF code, maybe 2028 if we're optimistic, 2032 perhaps more realistically. But for now, there's a pathway for the early movers using these guidelines and rules.
A huge leap. What about technical maturity? 2020, concept engines, zero orders, high barrier.
This is probably where the progress looks most dramatic. As of what, August 2025? We've got 39 ammonia-capable ships on order, mostly gas carriers, bulk carriers. And the engines. Major makers like Everlance, WinGD, Jieyang, they're not just talking anymore. They're committing to deliveries 2025, 2026. For real ships, Jieyang actually just did the world's first full-scale commercial engine test in August 25. Showed over 90% of GHG cuts, co-firing mostly ammonia. That's huge. Four-stroke engines are moving too. Wärtsilä, HD Hyundai, and we're seeing actual ships hit the water. Fortescue Green Pioneer, first ocean-going ammonia-fueled vessel, May 2024. Then NYK's tug, Siasco's tug.
Wow, from paper to reality. That builds confidence. Okay, volumetric energy density. Physics hasn't changed. Ammonia still takes up roughly 2.9 times the space of NGO.
Correct, the physics are fixed. But the perception that this is a showstopper, that's lessened. The focus now is on workable designs, maybe dual-fuel setups for range flexibility, planning for more frequent bunkering stops as the infrastructure grows. It's seen as manageable, though it depends a lot on the ship type and its routes.
Makes sense. And CapEx, the upfront cost. High and uncertain in 2020.
Still high, yes, but the numbers are much clearer now. We're seeing estimates of, say, an extra 15–20% cost for new builds like container ships or tankers. Retrofits, especially on older ships, can be significantly more, maybe 60% of the ship's remaining value in some cases. It's a barrier, for sure, but the expectation is these costs will come down with more experience, standardization, economies of scale.
Okay, so it sounds like building the ships is becoming feasible, though still costly. But what about the fuel itself? Can the fuel be supplied? Let's talk energy costs. 2020, super expensive blue-green ammonia, no real market price.
And it's still a very high barrier today. Green ammonia, around $2,900 per ton of MGO equivalent. That's what, 5 times current MGO prices? Rough numbers, but yeah, projections for 2050 look better, maybe 1,000 to 1,900 USDT MGOE. But the real game changer here is regulation putting a price on carbon. Things like the EU ETS, Fuel EU Maritime, the upcoming IMO mechanism from 2028. They make fossil fuels more expensive, helping close that gap. Support mechanisms like from the EU Innovation Fund are also needed to bridge things in the meantime.
Is anyone actually willing to pay that premium now?
It's limited, but you see pockets. Zemby's tender for cleaner container services, companies like Yara, Fortescue investing in green ammonia for their own ships.
Yeah.
Starting.
Okay. What about fuel availability? Unavailable for shipping in 2020? High barrier.
That's improved quite a bit. Blue and green ammonia production is definitely ramping up. Forecasts suggest maybe 14 to 16 million tons per year globally by 2030, based on projects with firm investment decisions. That's across 23 countries. The challenge now is that shipping's demand is still pretty small and spread out. So producers are, hedging their bets, aiming for multiple buyers, fertilizers, power generation, not just shipping to make their big investments viable.
Sensible strategy. And finally, infrastructure. No bunkering in 2020, though those fertilizer terminals were a plus.
Big movement here by 2025. This barrier is significantly lower. Major hubs, Singapore, Rotterdam, they're actively getting ready for safe ammonia bunkering. They rate themselves at port readiness levels 6 and 7, that's close to commercial readiness, and we've seen crucial trials. Fortescue Green Pioneer bunkering in Singapore, truck-to-ship in Yokohama for NYK's tug, ship-to-ship transfers down in Australia. Rotterdam did a pilot validating their safety plans for a decent-sized transfer.
Those real-world tests are key, aren't they? Proving it can be done safely. And actual new infrastructure is being built.
Exactly. Yara and Azine got the permit for the world's first floating ammonia bunkering terminal in Norway. Smallish, 1,000 cubic meters, but it's a start. And Itochu ordered the first dedicated ammonia bunkering ship, 5,000 cubic meters for Singapore, due in 2027. Plus, you have the idea of green corridors and maybe those existing ammonia carriers using their own cargo as fuel. That could be a stepping stone.
Incredible progress on supply and infrastructure then, but DNV added new barriers reflecting the wider picture. People and organization, high barrier in 2025. Why?
It boils down to skills and procedures. There's a lack of seafarers, shore staff trained specifically for ammonia. The operational procedures, the management systems, they need tailoring. Ammonia is just different. Bunkering, storage, maintenance all have unique safety angles. Existing codes like ISM and IGF help, but you need specifics. DNV has put out recommended practices for training. MTF has guidelines for safety management. The big thing will be the official IMO STCW training courses expected later this year. Early adopters are paving the way here.
Training is crucial. Then, stakeholder awareness and knowledge. Low confidence back in 2020. Ammonia seemed alien, toxic.
That's shifted quite dramatically. There's been a huge amount of work, conferences, reports, articles, raising awareness and understanding. The technical progress, those first demonstrations we talked about, they've built real confidence that the safety aspects, while serious, are manageable. Experience with LNG also helps, showing the industry can adapt to new fuels. Continued progress needs more ships, more green corridors, more knowledge sharing.
And the last new one, industrial platform for scaling. Rated as a low barrier, that sounds positive.
Yeah, this is a real advantage for ammonia. It can tap into existing fossil fuel production and distribution networks, which can be adapted. Plus, you've got serious commitment from major industrial players. Yara in fertilizers, Fortescue in mining and green energy, the big engine makers, major shipping lines like Carisco and NYK, Keyports. These aren't small companies. They have the resources and the clout to drive this forward. Technology, regulations, market development.
Okay, so pulling all this together, the progress is clear. We're moving, as DNV suggests, towards two phases: getting a pioneering fleet out there and then setting up for large-scale upscaling.
Exactly. And the barriers look different depending on which phase you're talking about. For that initial pioneering fleet, maybe a few dozen ships, a few hundred crew, fuel from a handful of ports, most barriers are actually looking, well, manageable. You can use risk-based approvals, the tech solutions are coming online, initial port supply is developing, you can train the limited crew needed. The big sticking point, the critical exception for this phase, fuel cost. It's just too high on its own right now.
So even with engines working and rules emerging, the economics are the main block for the pioneers.
Pretty much. So for them, you need targeted support. Financial mechanisms, maybe limited in time or scope, just to close that cost gap. Things like green corridors, focusing collaboration among experienced players, maybe pooling demand with other industries. That's how you get the pioneers moving. But then you look at upscaling. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of crew, fuel needed globally. It's like a whole different ballgame. That needs standardized solutions and action on all the barriers.
What does that look like? What has to happen for mass adoption?
Okay, for upscaling, you need stricter global GHG rules to really drive price parity. The IMO framework can't slip. That regulatory certainty then helps unlock fuel supply investments. You absolutely need those prescriptive IGF code rules finalized to move away from complex, bespoke approvals. The tech needs more real-world proving mass production capabilities. Many more ports need to offer ammonia bunkering, which means harmonized safety rules, shared knowledge. Crew training needs to be standardized, globally recognized via STCW, and everyone else needs to be ready: insurers, financiers, flag states, pilots, customers. That takes strong public-private partnerships.
It's a massive undertaking. So if you're a ship owner listening right now trying to figure this out, DNV suggests a two-step approach: economic and technical analysis.
That's the framework, yeah. First, the economic analysis. Run the numbers. How do different fuels and compliance options stack up long-term? Under various scenarios for fuel prices, carbon prices, regulations, test your fleet's competitiveness. Then, the technical analysis. What does choosing ammonia mean for your specific ship designs? Tank size, bunkering needs, engine room layout, safety systems. How do you prepare for fuel-ready options if you're not converting immediately?
And if they decide, okay, ammonia looks like the path for us, what are the immediate steps today to get a ship approved and operating safely?
DNV gives a kind of 7-step checklist for the current environment. 1. Use their class rules as a solid base for approval. 2. Talk to your flag administration early and often. 3. Tap into DNV's project experience to know what's coming regarding risk assessments. 4. Build in robust safety measures, leak prevention, gas handling, protection. 5. Update your safety management system specifically for ammonia ops. 6. Start internal training now. Don't wait for STCW to be fully rolled out. And 7. Sort out bunkering procedures and port approvals meticulously because they aren't standard everywhere yet. It's a clear path for those ready to move now.
What a journey we've covered. From theoretical concept in 2020 to, well, ships on order and engines being tested in 2025, the speed is remarkable. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. With the IMO targets looming and this pace of development, it really feels less like if ammonia has a role and more about how quickly and how effectively the industry can make this massive switch.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, ammonia's path, bumpy as it is, from idea to a potential deep-sea shipping solution, it really shows what happens when a global industry focuses on a net zero goal. You see the innovation, the rules adapting, the collaboration, and maybe that raises a question for you listening. As you see these huge industrial shifts happening, like with ammonia, how does understanding the nuts and bolts of it all, the barriers and breakthroughs, help inform your own perspective or decisions, whether it's in your own work or just thinking about the direction the world is heading? Something to consider.